Okay, this is lecture 1 on conversational art. It was a movement that I started in 1992, and this is the first time I've chosen to talk about it and discuss conversational art. And I'm going to start with a design chart. Okay, this is a design chart that I choose to use even in elementary school. Elements are expressed as tools, and principles I use as the rules. Unity is often used as a principle, but because of the definition, I am just choosing to use that as an overall way of speaking about art, the arrangement of elements and principles with media to create a feeling of completeness. Now for elements, I'm choosing color, form, line, shape, space, texture, value. For principles, I'm choosing balance, contrast, emphasis, gradation, harmony, movement, pattern, perspective, proportion, repetition, rhythm, and variety. I circled some of the words that are used in various states, and states don't always agree on which things to use as elements, which things to use as principles. These are what I use in my classroom and in my teaching. I'm going to try and cover a lecture for today, and these are the things that I've used for this lecture. The design chart was number 1. Number 2 are 3 theories of art: imitationalism, the literal or realistic qualities, formalism, design or visual qualities, and emotionalism, the expressive qualities. And I'm going to try and show you how I think of these. The literal or realistic is how much does the picture look like a real picture. The artist that we're choosing for this is Edward Hopper. And he has a book, there's a book out on him that I think is very neat. And the book I look at just to enjoy his work and see what he has out there. But we're going to break down each of these qualities. Here's another little book that I feel has done a very good job on using the aesthetics in art. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is, does his work look like a real gas station? So if you were to look at these are my pieces for trying to teach school. And the one I thought, oh, it's too small, it's not showing everything. It is capturing a light source, but is that what Mr. Hopper wanted or what I wanted? This one I redid, and it's too tall, still missing points. And then here, one that I did that expressed the design qualities. That's more or less your elements and principles in art. But let's go back to the one on this cover of this book and see what the title of the cover book is. It says Edward Hopper, Light and Dark. So when I was at first trying to imitate some of his work, I was missing the light and dark, and I was just focusing on the light. So this is the does it look real part of the theory of art. The next one is the formalism, and that's where you're using your elements and principles again. And so just another look at your elements right here. You can see that. Now the third one is emotionalism, and does it express an idea? And in expressing an idea, this brings me back to the gas stations that I knew as a child. I come from the baby boomers. And the gas stations I knew, people pumped your gas. They cleaned your windows. They thought of you as a real human being. And nowadays, you go in with the charge card. Sometimes you don't even see a person. Just whip that card in. You pay for your gas and you walk away. There's no appreciation for your money or even value of you. but we've come to be kind of a throwaway society, it feels like at times. I'm going to show you the book that really helped me to put my art together. It's Creating and Understanding Drawings. I got it for $3 at a junk store, but you can look at the authors, Mittler and House. And I think another thing important is to look at the publisher of the book. I'm going to quick open it up and show you that, because that's an important part. Here we go. It's got a copyright. I'm not getting a clear picture of all this. Okay, so McGraw-Hill, the Glencoe Division. This is an excellent book in helping me to understand and put together my artistic learning from college. But this is the first book that really put things in perspective with me, and I think one of the first things I really liked was the design chart in understanding the elements and principles, but his design chart is much simpler than the one I chose to use. I'll quick show you his design chart. On page 30 in his book. Let me see if I can quick get to it for you. Well, here's one of his design charts, and this is what they've chosen to use. But I just needed more because I wanted to cover a series of things for my students. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about the specific piece I want to look at is design or visual qualities and formalism. And I'm going to show you something that really has been hard for me as a teacher is volume, shapes, and solid geometric shapes. Because in art, these solid shapes we call forms. And then I am also missing a free form for my shapes. But it's very important to help students to understand the different terms used in different subjects. So when you're talking about elements and principles and you're working with formalism, you might want to, state sometimes when you're working with geometry, your geometric shapes become forms. And the other thing is when you're working with imitationalism, to what degree do you want this imitationalism? Is it okay that it's not picture perfect? When the photograph came out, it really made it a lot harder for artists because they were judged according to the photograph. The other thing I really want to stress is emotionalism. And I'm just going to repeat again about how people had a different value before the big freeways came in and you just can jump off the freeway and get your gas. And there was a dilemma, what's going to happen to the small business owner? What's going to happen to these little gas stations when these big freeways run through? Are the little towns going to start disappearing, or are we going to still value them? So I think, aesthetics is a good thing to look at for learning how to value things and people, and maybe realizing that some of the things of the past were pretty good after all. I'm going to cover my notes really quickly with you. First of all, I founded Conversational Art in 1992, and it's more of a movement for having conversation. I'm going to share my notes with you. Okay, in the lecture, the one thing I thought was important is the design chart. Number 2, theories of art, imitationalism, the literal or realistic qualities, formalism, design or visual qualities, emotionalism, the expressive qualities. The next thing we go to is 3 kinds of aesthetic qualities. A, literal, the realistic or lifelike representation of subject matter. B, design qualities, the way the elements and principles of art have been used. C, expressive qualities, the drawing effectively communicates an idea, feeling, or mood to the viewer. I'm going to go to the next page because I'm going on to something else. it's art criticism and the process. Because a lot of times when we do, when we sit down and we're going to evaluate or look at people's work, I need the students to be aware of what we're going to talk about. So when we're talking about work, it's description involves asking and answering questions designed to help you discover everything in a drawing. Analysis, use the elements of art to learn how the work is organized or composed. Interpretation involves using clues gathered during your investigation of a drawing to reach a decision about its meaning or meanings. Judgment, a thoughtful and informed response to a drawing. So we're kind of careful when we talk about people's work. You're not coming in to tear the person down. You're trying to uplift them. You're trying to understand. And you're trying to share knowledge. Okay, I look at Elements, the book, Creating an Understanding, says that they're building blocks. I usually teach them as tools to express ideas. The book again says principles, various ways to use the elements, and I define the principles more as rules to define ideas. And a design chart helps to analyze artwork, and I call it a visual vocabulary chart. Now here's just a note from the book. Special observation, learning from and learning about works of art leads to understanding, appreciation, and enjoyment of the things that enrich our lives. So I guess, in short, I really like that sentence, and I've taken it from the book, Creating and Understanding Drawings. Now, this is really good for going on and learning other things. But thank you for your time, and I hope you learned a little bit or have some insights into the design chart and your theories of art, your aesthetic qualities, and then the last thing, art criticism process. Hope this is a good start for you and you can build on it and learn from it. Thank you.